We're going to have a presentation on balancing privacy and data security governance in digital age. Ladies and gentlemen, you all have to help me to welcome Mr. Ayush Mehan, Sales Engineer, India and SAARC ForcePoint. A round of applause for him, everybody.
So, ladies and gentlemen, what we are in this age is these 2 points which are highlighted in red. I think so it's a worrisome point for everyone whenever we look or we hear about such two words, data breach or a cyber attack, right? And if we look at the last few months itself, we have seen a tremendous growth in this sector where we call it as a hackers sector, right? Which is growing at like, would be crossing sooner $10 billion economy overall, right? So if you look at some of the key highlights, and this is like day before yesterday, Verizon published a report which says that espionage attacks on APAC, that is like India is part of it, has increased tremendously over the last few years. And we as a country are leading in that, because some of the next highlights, India emerges as the top 3 countries, or the, I would say the cyber attacks, right? Next, it's a very interesting headline which says the reinsurance insurance sectors are asking to ensure that the cyber attacks would be happening on the public sector. And that's a big statement came just few days back, because reinsurance sector is also worried about if there is an attack, the amount of decremental values that they have to pay back to the public sector, right? So they are also concerned about what's happening around the cyber security. We all know how the 𝗧𝗿𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 data leak happened on that early this year on 9th or 10th of Jan. Last but not the least, India has been again globally ranked 3rd on the phishing attacks. So these are some of the important headlines which, if we look at, it gives us a nightmare, but it also is an opportunity for us to lead and make sure that we are not in these headlines, or we are not part of these, I would say, the stories which are coming on the newspapers or in the digital world. So with this, hi, my name is Ayush. I represent a company called ForcePoint. We are world's largest cybersecurity and data security company. We are here to help you to secure your data in this digital world, because everything is now digitalized. Even if you talk about the land records, these are getting digitalized. Everything in any form which was in the written formats are getting into the digital format. So we need to make sure that these data are getting into the right hands only, right? So what we know, right? What we know is only the tip of the iceberg. Everything beneath that is something which we need to look at, and the unseen data, right? The unseen data is in form of 3 things. First is the unknown data. Second is the undiscovered data. And third one is the unidentified data. How we can make sure on all 3 pillars, we have some mechanisms where we can present and we have a visibility across the data. And in the bottom of the screen, if you say, there's a word called as ROT. And this is very significant. If we start doing this as an activity, this will significantly reduce the attack surface area. ROT stands for redundant, outdated, and trivial data. The first 2, the redundant and the obsolete, means redundant in any organization. If you look at today, it's a global survey which says around 25 to 28% of the data in any organization is redundant, right? If 28 files are of same nature and the same content in any organization, the amount of storage, the amount of security solutions being used to protect that data is significantly high. The cost is very high. And not only that, attackers have 28 locations to get hold of your sensitive information. So if we start to make sure that we only have a copy of a sensitive data only once, this will significantly reduce our attack surface area, and also make sure that we have a right set of users who only having the access. The second part of the is the obsolete data. Data which has been created like a 2-year, 3-year back, we don't even know, but we are still backing it up. We are still making sure all the security functions are in place to protect that data. But that is in the public domain, right? There is no way or reason for doing that. Trivial, something which should not be backed up, which was always a public data. So if we start doing the analysis of ROT, we'll be able to significantly bring down the amount of storage, the amount of cost, or the better ROI on the tools that we are investing in today, right? And also significantly reduce the attack surface area from where the sensitive information can go out, right? Now, we are living in a very interesting age, and thanks to the Indian government, they have come up with this act of DPDP, and we will see further more regulations coming up as we all pray that we get the 3rd term from the the existing government itself, so that we have right set of policies in place. So what are these compliances, right? We can talk about data fiduciaries, the data principles, the owners, the consent management, which are all laid down in DPDP, right? But how does these map back to you as an entity, how you have to, and what information you have to look at? The very first thing is the inventory management, the inventory of your personal as well as the confidential data. It could be lying across storages, it could be in databases, emails, laptops, and the people who are moving to the public cloud or the private clouds as well. We have to have the complete inventory of that. Second is, how do we discover this data, and on top of that do a classification of the data. If it is still static in nature, where it is user driven, right, where user has a right to say, okay, this is my public data, this is my private data, there is bound to happen that some wrong classifications will happen, the sensitive data may go out. So you need to use AI ML to its right side, or a good side, right, to effectively classify that data. Second, and also providing the visibility. Next two is about how I can manage the data flow, how the data is moving from one side of the environment to the other side, who is having the access, what access is having, where the data is lying, how the user is trying to access, and what action needs to be taken. Last but not the least, and which is very beautifully laid out in DPDP Act as well, is the actionable dashboard, the complete visibility of your data, right, where the data is lying, how much risk that the data is posing to the organization, what assets in the organizations are there which is having a higher risk, right? So giving that complete dashboard is the need of the hour. Next, we have been hearing about zero trust, and when a few people were talking to me on the booth as well, everyone was concerned what you are doing in the zero trust approach, right? Zero trust is just a fundamental where I would say I don't trust anything, right? When I say I do not trust a file, I do not trust a particular link, I do not trust a document which is getting downloaded on machine, a URL I am visiting, how and what mechanisms the zero trust focuses on. The very first thing is the access piece, right? The things that you are accessing, you should not trust that. Second is the usage piece of it. Any consumption of internet, any consumption of even the private applications, how it can impact or have a detrimental impact on your systems. You need to have a zero trust approach towards that. Next is the data, the data which we are consuming, right? Next is zero trust content, the things that are getting downloaded. This could be a malicious file, right? In ForcePoint, we always say anything which is in a digital format is unsafe. How we can make sure that this unsafe data, right, can be consumed while making sure that the data has been converted into a safe form, right? These are the four fundamental pillars in any zero trust approach or anything that you are applying. Next, I have a question back to the audience. Can you ensure whenever you are clicking a particular link is safe or not? You might be having the best of the breed technologies in place today. Can you still assure yourself that whenever you're clicking on a link, it is free from any malware or any JavaScript at the backend? No, right? So, any questions? Okay. So, what we say, we do a presumed, we say we are presuming that this is a good URL because it is coming from a legitimate source. Or it could be a vast area of unknowns, the unclassifieds, the newly created domains. As like last 5-6 minutes I've been talking, I don't know how many hundreds and thousands of URLs would have been created already, right? They're continuously, the hackers community is working on creating new URLs, new links, and those are the parked domains, right? No one is having any visibility around that. How to make sure, even if we are giving the access to those URLs, how I can be very sure that no threat from those URLs can come back on my machine, right? And we all know what is known bad, right? So it's always a gray area between what's good, what's bad. The centerpiece, which is very wide, is the unknowns and the presumed goods or the presumed bads. So we have a technology called as remote browser isolation, which it's a containerized based solution. Nothing will get executed on your machine. It's just a pixel stream or a secure HTML stream which is coming back onto your machine. Okay, there is no way the actual source is, or the actual destination page is getting viewed on your machine, and it's completely transparent to the user, right? User does not come to know about it. And the beauty of this is the part of the access. The user's piece, if anything is getting downloaded from this particular URL, I apply a content disarm and reconstruction technique on top of it, okay? Where any file which is getting downloaded from the internet, I'll extract the content, verify that content, rebuild the file in the same file format and give it to you. That way you would be 100% sure that no malware written file is coming back on your machine. Okay, so that's the usage and the access piece of it from a zero trust perspective. And this is how it looks like. You can't differentiate between the regular browser and the remote browser isolation browser page which is coming to you. Okay, so this is on the internet side of things, right? Now let's shift the gears toward the data protection side of things. What we are doing in the data protection space, and we have been pioneers in, like from last 30 years, we have been doing this. So the very first phase in any data protection cycle or a data life cycle is the discovery phase. Discovery, the data which has already been created. There will be thousands of files on your laptop. There could be thousands and lakhs of files on your file shares and your databases, right? How do I discover that content? What are the sensitive information on those machines? Where are those sensitive informations? We can go and discover that data on the fly. Next is, once I have identified, I have discovered my content, next steps is the classification. And this classification should not happen that, okay, if user says this is the file, go ahead and classify as a public. No, it has to be driven by technology. It has to be driven by tools which can understand the type of content. It has to have a solid classifiers in place, okay? So we do AI and ML based classification onto those data. Then is the prioritization phase. Prioritization simply means a data which is now created, right? Or a data which is available in the form of a digital content on your machine, how I can make sure with respect to its impact if that data gets lost, right? There could be different type of contents. So how I can prioritize that content and then ultimately protect that data on all the exit channels. It could be from the endpoint, it could be from your email, it could be from your web or the cloud applications, private applications, it could be anywhere, right? The data can move out. And then doing a continuous monitoring of this stuff. Last is the risk adaptive protection. What we are doing till now, the technology piece is a reactive in nature. If something is going on, let me block it. But what is the context behind it? Can I do a predictive analysis? Can I continuously assess the user's risk towards the organization, towards the data? So what we do is we can look at the content, what he is interacting with. He is a good user today, his activity changes, I start auditing his activities. He is behaving more maliciously, I will say, okay, ask him to confirm for his certain activities. And he's still doing something wrong, I'll go ahead and block it. And this all happens automatically. You don't need to interfere and make sure that the risk is changing, now let me change the policies. The policies are automatically fine-tuned to do that, okay? These are some of the use cases. You get such dashboards, the amount of repositories and everything. Then the risk analysis and the data control workflows. I'm sorry, I'm out of time, but I'll just skip few slides. This is how it looks like. It's all one single platform which is talking about it. You can have a single vendor SAARC, you can look at it. And not only this, from the internet side and the data protection side, we are doing convergence, okay? And the last slide talks about, I'll go to the last slide, is a convergence of data security posture management as well as the internet controls or the application controls merging into one single platform to provide you data policies and your network policies combined into one across all channels which are listed over here. So with this, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I hope got something new out of this session. We are outside on our booth. Do let us know if you have any questions. Thank you.
Well, so now may I request Mr. 𝗖𝗿𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃, Principal Consultant, Noida Center of Excellence, MPSEDC, State IT Center, Government of Madhya Pradesh, kindly be on stage and felicitate this wonderful presenter, ladies and gentlemen. And you all have to help me to welcome. Thank you, Mr. Ayush Mehan, for the wonderful presentation, very relevant one. A round of applause for him.